Point is also proud to provide a variety of relaxing amenities for the guests who want to be pampered. Soak up the sun and let your stress melt away in our lagoon-style paradise swimming pool. A relaxing getaway where you can bask in the desert sun and enjoy seasonal food and bar service poolside. And if you really want to escape, come to Spa Costa del Sur. From couple suites to a co-ed wet area, our spa caters to business and leisure travelers who want to unwind and elevate their senses. A visit to one of our spa's steam, sauna, or whirlpool treatment rooms will leave any guest feeling like they can take on the world. Our gaming amenities include over 60 table games and over 2,600 of the most popular slot and video poker machines. We have penny slots, including the popular Buffalo games, and real machines like Wheel of Fortune, Triple Sevens, and Megabucks. If you prefer video poker, try Deuces Wild, Double Bonus, or a variety of multi-denomination games. Or try your hand at one of the most popular casino table games in the world, Blackjack. Don't let the game intimidate you. Blackjack, also known as 21, is both easy and fun. And our dealers are always happy to assist. And the best part? Blackjack always pays 3 to 2. Next, check out the roulette tables. Roulette is one of the easiest casino games to learn, and so much fun to play. It's a favorite of both beginners and seasoned players. In addition to blackjack and roulette, our casino pit features over 60 popular table games like Baccarat, Pai Gow Poker, 3-Card Poker, Ultimate Texas Hold'em, and Mississippi Stud. So get out of your room and come join in the fun.
Welcome in. It is Football Frenzy on a Monday for one last time here in 2025. I'm Jeff Parles, or at least the 2024 season. We'll have many more in 2025 for the 2025 season. Ryan McCormick. I'm Jeff Parles, Ryan McCormick. Chris Andrews is here as well. We are thrilled to be with you on what is, it feels weird tonight. The national championship game is tonight in Atlanta. Of course, Notre Dame, Ohio State. Buckeyes, nice size favorites. We'll get to that in a moment. But you and I were talking before the show, Chris, and I think you're spot on, where these semifinals took place the Thursday and Friday before the NFL playoffs started. Mm-hmm. You flip this around, play it on the Friday before the divisional weekend. I think this has a little bit of a different feel for this game going in today. Now, granted, I know the action's been great, and we'll only pick up over the next hour, but it feels like it's slipped under the radar a little bit, this monster.
I've been saying it for years. This should be the appetizer, not the dessert. You know, we're worn out from football by this point. Or if you had this on Friday, plus these are two of the most public teams in the country. You know, and I mean, we got a decent crowd, but we've had hoops all day. You know, and they're betting it. You know, but Jeff. I've been saying it for years, and you know who agrees with us is Chris Felica. He's been saying it for years. This game should be played on Friday, and, not on Monday. And listen, guys like us, we're going to watch. We're going to have our chicken wings and pizza and beer and whatever else we're going to do and bet the games and all that. But for the general public, I think a lot of them are just worn out by now, and really their mind is elsewhere.
Well, just to add to it, like you have Super Bowl Sunday, you have the party, and then everybody dreads going to work the next day.
Sure.
You have the national championship on a Monday. When everybody just had a day of work, you have to go back to work tomorrow instead of on a Friday when you have the whole weekend ahead of you to allow one of these schools to celebrate. Yeah, it's on the wrong day of the week. 100%.
It's a national holiday, though, today. That is the one thing that is also a little bit funky. By the way, couldn't find a parking spot here today, jammed.
Well, it is the South Point.
No, I know. But it is also a holiday plus it is the South Point, as you said there, Chris. But let's just look at this game, though, because Chris, this open 9.5 was bet down to you got as low as 8
pretty quick.
Yeah, 8 pretty quick, and now we're coming back up the ladder here today, 45.5. But now I see that that money line, the $4 on the Buckeyes now, getting juicier and juicier on Notre Dame as
I'm sorry, that's behind. We're at 425.
Okay, so even more
425 plus 340.
So even more now on that front. And pretty penny if you're trying to bolt up your parlays with Ohio State money line at this point now.
They certainly deserve to be favored. My numbers came to 6.5 on this game. God knows it's a football game. They could win by 1 million. Who knows? Yep. But I think the defense is very good for both teams. I think both teams will play relatively conservatively. And, Ryan and I talked before the broadcast. He thinks it's going to be a one-score game. Yeah. And, I would tend to agree with that. I think this game goes to the wire one way or the other. I thought, the 9.5 that I opened, that was like the market consensus. But I moved it quickly to 8 because I thought the dog was the right side. And the original bettors thought so too. But now they've just been overpowered. And it's not just the public. There's some sharp money on Ohio State as well. So, we have to respond accordingly. And as of now, we need Notre Dame pretty good.
Yeah, I think the 9 is way too much in this game. The only thing that scares me in how Ohio State blows Notre Dame out is the resurgence of Jeremiah Smith, who we didn't get to see. 2 targets in last week's game, 1 catch for 3 yards. The first time that he wasn't a focal point in this offense. You have to think that he's going to be the focal point in this offense today. So will Notre Dame be able to stop him? That's where I think they'll be able to stay in this game.
I think one way you stop him is pressuring the quarterback. Yeah. And I think Notre Dame can do that.
Yep.
He got 2 of the 5 best defenses in college football. Total sitting at 45.5. I moved back to 46 yesterday, so I came back down.
We're back and forth. I think we're at 46 right now.
Yeah, so tight on that whole deal. Right now, 46. Ryan and I were talking before. The under we both think is pretty solid in this game.
I like the under. I'm not a totals guy, but I got to like the under.
These defenses. Ohio State's defense, obviously the eye-popping offensive results early in this tournament, but don't shortchange what this defense has done in this tournament. They made Tennessee look like a mediocre football team in round 1. Oregon didn't score until the final play of the first half against this Ohio State defense. And then, look, I know Texas got it down to 1st and goal at the 1, down 7, but Ohio State's defense at the goal line stand and the 7 the other way. This is a high-end defense, and in Notre Dame, we talked about it all year since and even the Northern Illinois game was not Notre Dame's defense's fault. Scored 14 points, 16-14. Notre Dame's defense has been a top-flight unit all year long. Kind of want to say I would love to see this get a little bit higher by kicking and come under a better number, but I don't know. I don't know how greedy I can get on this one.
Yeah, that's about as good as you can get. I think. I don't know. We'll see.
There's 146.5.
Who has that?
Wynn's got it.
Wynn.
Yeah.
Yeah, they get a lot of public play.
I was going to say
that public play with big money.
Yeah. Well,
but I personally, the way, and like I said, I'm not a great totals guy, but I see this game about 24-17, something like that.
Yeah, it sounds about right. That's a nice cover for the underdog. Whoever wins that game,
dog
and under on that one. That's the anti-Nicotero guys. If you're going on that. Ryan and I have more thoughts as we go through the show. Ryan already pledging his allegiance to Notre Dame here today, as always.
The Shamrock Series jersey. Hopefully, it has a little bit of luck with it.
As I've said, I'm not hedging my futures. I've already made enough through this tournament on the Irish. I'm good. If Notre Dame happens to win, extra gravy on top. That's all it is. Yeah. We're good there. 12-1. That. The 8-1 with Notre Dame over Ohio State during the tournament, heading into the Final Four. So it'd be a nice night if the Irish found a way to win a title for the first time since the Lou Holtz era. Be a nice night for me.
Be a nice night for me too.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Chris, let's go back to this past weekend and then looking ahead in the NFL, where look. Kansas City wins, but doesn't cover the final number on weird chicanery.
Yeah.
Look, if you bet Kansas City at the late of the number, you only have yourselves to blame. You had all week to bet every other number that got there except for.
You guys took the 9.5 too, though.
Oh, I understand that. If you took the 9.5, job well done.
Right, job well done.
You got pretty lucky, all things considered.
That's okay.
That was a dead under. But really the biggest result of the weekend, I know, Chris, you always say one underdog outright in a playoff weekend for the NFL usually is a great result for you. And the Commanders, 45 points on Detroit, best team in Lion history, out before the NFC title game. And Jaden Daniels only becomes the 3rd rookie quarterback to win 2 road playoff games in the same postseason, joining the ranks of Joe Flacco and Mark Sanchez, who did it in 2008 and 2009, respectively. Daniel's on pace for a better career than both of those guys, I would say, so far.
Yeah. But we got a long way to go. Let's not put him in the Hall of Fame yet.
Flacco's got a ring, so we can do that.
With this one, you might. With Jaden Daniels, he becomes the second rookie quarterback all time to have 14 wins in a season.
Who was the other one?
Ben
Big Ben.
Roethlisberger.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Roethlisberger was 15-1 Pittsburgh in the regular season. Tommy Maddox got hurt week 2, right?
Maddox got hurt early. Yeah.
But Chris, it is so interesting to see, at least when you get a result like this. By the way, this game kind of talked about how I thought the way for Washington to win this game was long, drawn-out possessions, and this game probably is played in the high 20s, so closer to under than an over game. And, well, I mean, they only went over this total in the first half, basically.
Yep.
But credit to Washington and credit to that coaching staff that revitalized a mess right away. And we see what good coaching can do for a rookie quarterback. No, Ryan's now hopeful with Ben Johnson getting the Bear job today.
Not just a head coach hire, but the key of the coordinator hires around it as well.
Yeah. So, but Chris, that was a wild one on Saturday night for the Commanders outright. Closed 8.5 on that one.
Yeah, we had good business both ways, but so many people had money line and teasers, money line parlays, teasers. I mean, almost like it was a free bet, and I think we have a pretty good clientele listening to this show knows that there's no such thing in this racket. I mean, there is no easy money. These joints aren't here to give away money, and there's always a price. And a lot of guys, they don't like to bet dogs. They say, well, look at this team. They have this, that. And I've been using this for years, and I probably have said it on the show. You know that one guy in high school? No, you got Bellinger in your high school. But you know that guy? Okay, he was probably like the best athlete. If he's good enough to make an NFL roster, well, there's 52 other guys who are just as good. And most of us don't have guys in high school who were good enough to make the NFL. So those guys, you put a collection of 53 of those guys together, you mean they can't win one game? Are you kidding me? Yeah, of course they can. And you could see it. And then you add the terrific coaching. And I don't want to knock the Detroit coaching because I think they have a terrific staff. But, I think Cliff Kingsbury, he's another guy who's proven to be a much better coordinator than head coach. I think he's going to get another head coaching opportunity. I hope that's not a mistake on his part because I think he really fits Jaden Daniels well. I mean, but probably a lot of guys would. But he really did. And a lot of guys were looking for a drop-off because of Kingsbury with Murray all those years. Of course, we didn't see that. As a matter of fact, we saw the exact opposite. But they did a terrific job. Washington did, and good for them. And I talked to our old friend Gil, Jeff, who was, of course, very happy.
A little bit pleased with what's going on.
He was very happy. He was very happy with that. So I don't blame him.
It's interesting because you brought up we saw the little bit of the plateau with this Washington offense for a few weeks there at the beginning of the month of December, and then really the whole thing flipped when they beat the Eagles in that game where Jalen Hurts suffered the concussion. It looked like Philly was on their way to scoring 50 points in that game. Still scored in the 30s, but Washington, despite a whole bunch of turnovers, won that game. And
5 touchdowns from Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, Daniels was awesome even with the turnovers. And now you get the rematch in Philadelphia after the Eagles in a snowball yesterday. Got a little dicey at the end.
Sure.
But the Eagles found a way.
When he hit that one pass in the Nakua, down the right sideline, I thought they were going to win it.
So did
that would have been another big win.
So did I. It would have been a totally different go of it. Rams, by the way, do cover the closing number.
Yeah. That
game somehow finds a way over that 44 as well. But Chris, this is third time around, division rivalry. By the way, I did realize, someone tweeted this and I didn't even realize it. If the Eagles go on to win the Super Bowl and they beat the Bills will have lost the Super Bowl to all 4 NFC East teams.
Oh, wow.
Because the 2 to Dallas, the 1 to Washington, and then, of course, wide right to the Giants to begin that 4-year run. That would be the first time in NFL history that has happened, which is
pretty bizarre.
Probably not going to be caught anytime soon either.
Can I just take a moment to point out that would be Philadelphia fans versus Buffalo fans in New Orleans?
Yeah.
Good luck.
Get your bar tab ready, guys.
Yeah.
Eagles 5.5, Chris.
Yeah.
Which I'll just ask you this, and not much hedging going on, all things considered, I would say, with this number. Jalen Hurts took a vicious hit at the end of that game.
Okay, let me tell you.
Yeah.
So I opened the game 5.
Okay.
Which my numbers did come to 5.5. But I mean, we're splitting hairs at that point. I opened the game 5. First bet came in on the dog.
Okay.
Not huge, but 10,000. From
That's a good size bet. Yeah.
Decent size bet. I said, man, go to 4.5. Because I was worried about Jalen Hurts. I said, this guy, and it was one of my sharp players. He may know something about Hurts that hasn't hit the public yet. So we go to 4.5, and then we had some bigger bets minus the 4.5, and then today we had some even bigger bets minus the 5. So I had lunch with a couple guys, Vinny, Jimmy, and another good friend of ours. And it appears that the fear over Jalen Hurts is gone, at least for right now.
And it'll be interesting to see because that hit looked awful. I didn't really move around.
And he's had problems for the last month, too.
Well, it's interesting, too, because Hurts, we see all these NFL quarterbacks play through injury one time or another.
Sure.
Last year, down the stretch, Hurts got hurt. Now, Philly had all sorts of issues going on down the stretch last year.
Yeah.
But Hurts was as bad as anyone down the stretch last year, and I thought that mostly had to do with the fact that he was playing with a knee injury that they weren't being honest with anyone on. I think that could play a role here. Now, I think this is the one matchup that is the one matchup for the Commanders that going into the postseason I didn't really love for them on paper. Third time around, great defensive coordinator, great defense. This is also going to be the first playoff game for Washington that are not in ideal conditions because the game in Tampa was 60 degrees with limited wind. The Detroit game was obviously indoors. This will be around freezing. Well, it should not be. It's not expected to be like it was yesterday, but still a few days for that to play out. Sure. But I'm curious to see how this gets bet through the week, more so than that AFC game, which we'll obviously get to in a second.
Well, Washington is the public darlings right now.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So, I mean, I think we're at good numbers, really. I opened Kansas City 1.5. That's what I made the number. We're up to 2 with business. I can understand it. I mean, I'm not that crazy about betting against Kansas City. They're going to be awful tough to beat anywhere. But I always say the time to bet against them is when they're at home. So I think that number gets a little inflated. But 1.5, 2, that's not. I'm talking like when they're like 7 or 7.5. So I don't think that comes into play that much in this particular game. But I think we'll get great action on both games. You can see we put out a ton of props already.
Yep, got them
for most of them. Most of these we were the first ones to market for pretty much almost everything, including we got potential matchups and all that other.
You want the Commanders to win by 37 or more points at 100-1, Ryan? You want that?
Sean might.
Oh, Sean might, yeah.
Sean might.
Let me tell you that I won't say his name here, but one of the sharpest guys I know, legendary gambler, always played that. He says, you have infinity working for you. It's okay. He won a couple of them, not too many, but you don't have to win too many at 100.
What was the 73-0 NFL championship game? Was
Redskins and Bears, I think, right?
Yeah, I think that was right.
Who was the winner?
The Bears.
Bears, okay.
Yeah. I knew the Bears were involved. So I knew between that side of the desk we'd get that. By the way, as Chris said, the exactas are still up as well.
Yeah.
You have highest scoring team for Sunday as well up there. There are you also have yes no on the championship as well up right now for this one. Chris, just real quick on the AFC title game, and then we'll let you go back to work. You're up to 2 now on that game. Buffalo took full advantage of the Baltimore turnovers yesterday. That was the difference in the ball game. Jackson's fumble led to a Buffalo touchdown. Andrews' fumble led to a Buffalo field goal and probably took points off the board for Baltimore. And then, of course, the coup de grace at the end where Andrews dropped what should have been the game-tying 2-point conversion. I thought I was on the Bills. I thought I was pretty lucky to get away with that yesterday.
No, if you didn't look at the score, then Baltimore definitely outplayed.
Box score, Baltimore. A box score, actually, the wrong result happened in both AFC games. But
I got to tell you, that's football.
Yeah, 100%.
Big plays determine games.
Well, if we were just going off of yards, which we know is not a good way to determine winners, the team that outgained the other team was 0-4 this past weekend. So,
is that right?
Yeah.
Detroit
outgained Washington?
Yeah, Detroit was almost 8 yards of play, but -5 in a turnover differential. See you later against that team. But, Chris, It's so interesting this week, just from a betting perspective and how narratives may play into this one, where Buffalo has been great against Kansas City in the regular season. And we all know what they have done in the postseason. Big old goose egg in the win column against these Kansas City Chiefs. 0-3 since Allen and Mahomes have been doing it against each other. First matchup was in that 2020 AFC title game, which, by the way, Buffalo was up double digits in that game, and I totally forgot that was the case.
I forgot that, too.
It was 10-0. Or excuse me.
I can't remember 3 weeks ago. I got to tell you. I was going through the exactas this morning, and I swear to God, this is truth. The Steelers were in the playoffs.
But Chris, this is the late game. This is the one that everyone will be going to. I mean, this will be an incredible betting game when it's all said and done.
Well, see, once again, let's backtrack. This last weekend is the best weekend of the year, and that's why the championship game should be on Friday. We just had the best weekend of the year. Now you're going to throw one more game in. And I'm sorry, I love college football, and I'm sure everybody here, and probably all our listeners do, but it's not the same as pro football. It just isn't, I mean, a lot of it is extremely regional. You're going to root for Notre Dame. We got guys from Ohio. They're going to root for Ohio State. Somebody in Seattle might not care, who wins the game. Whereas NFL, everybody has a team and a bet and something like that. So it's just not the same thing.
Very true.
Be very interesting to see how this all plays out. Chris, when will the Super Bowl numbers be out?
As soon as that game ends.
About 5 minutes after the AFC
we got
title
the
game
numbers
ends.
up now.
Yeah, I know you have the prospective numbers, but
let me just explain too, in case somebody doesn't know. Most of our guys know. If you pick one of these and that's not the matchup, you get your money back.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're not risking. I mean, it's always a risk in this racket, but we're not scooping up the money if you happen to pick the wrong matchup.
That Buffalo Philly pick is very interesting.
Counter's right over there, Jeff.
I know, but I'll hold my tongue on that one.
Okay.
For right now.
Now we're going to get Kansas City, Washington.
Oh, no. Well, Casey Washington would be a boatload of fun. I mean, you think that there might be – so this is, of course, the Super Bowl in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Patriots-Rams, which is another one that I can think of the – at the time, the shocking underdog making it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And it felt like everyone at the time was rooting for New England. Now, granted, 20 years later, we all realized we made an error in our judgment on that.
Yeah.
But
not if you bet them, though.
Well, if you bet them, you were unbelievable.
I took the 14. I should have bet the money line, but I took the 14.
That was that big of a line. Yeah. I mean, the greatest show on turf was Mike Martz, come on down. But
can I tell you one more thing? This is when I actually pressed my bet the day before. I had taken 14, and they're interviewing Kurt Warner. Great player. My goal is to win 5 Super Bowls. The first thing I'm thinking is, you better win 2 before you win 5. And of course, he never got to number 2.
No, well, almost got the Steelers, as we know, but Santonio Holmes did not let that happen.
Yep.
So, Chris, thank you.
All right, guys, have fun.
We will.
Should be a fun weekend.
Should be a fun week. Should be a fun night here in the national title game. All right, Ryan, let's, you know what? Let's take a quick break. When we get back, our official plays for the national title game. We'll check in with the chat, and we'll see Vinny Magliulo in about 25 minutes. When we get back, Football Frenzy on Sports by the Book.
Get ready to laugh with Punchlines with Frank Nicotero. Join Frank and his team of featured guests for your daily dose of comedy.
Reno, the Pittsburgh of the West.
Poison.
Yeah.
Poison.
Sports.
F for Falcons, Alex. We were talking Derek Carr for MVP after 2 games. Okay, me. I was.
And the funniest social media posts.
People want to show off their food. Boom. Wiener on a guy's shoulder. It's the dark tones. We bleed blue.
It's your one-stop spot for great laughs and a good time. Find us on YouTube at Punchlines FN. And join the chat live weekdays at noon Pacific for the ultimate blend of jokes, sports, and viral fun.
Welcome back in. It is Sports by the Book, Football Frenzy. Jeff Parles, Ryan McCormick alongside. Happy to be with you as always. One book in town, and I will say a very respected book, went to 10 on this game while we were talking to Chris Andrews.
Yep.
That book is now back down to 8 on this game tonight. South Point is market high on this game at 9. at the moment, Ryan, between Notre Dame and Ohio State.
Yeah, that 10 was a very easy take if you were able to get it. And I still think the 9 is the right side in this one. If you look at the season numbers for these two teams against the spread, Notre Dame is 14-1, the best in the country. Ohio State is 13-2, third best in the country. But if you look at the margin in which they covered the spread, Ohio State covered their spreads at an average of 3 points per game, which would be 29th in the country, 17th out of Power 5 schools. Notre Dame is one of 3 teams in the country that on average cover the spread by double digits. They cover the spread by an average of 10.1 points per game. The other 2 teams that are double digits were also in the playoff. Do you want to take a guess of who they were?
Go ahead, Ryan.
Indiana and Arizona State.
Of course.
Yeah, exactly who you thought you'd be. And that's kind of what you could make the argument of who they played, maybe inflated those numbers. But if you want to look at the last 7 weeks for these two teams, so when Notre Dame season was at Florida State and on, and Ohio State was at Purdue and on. So Ohio State beat Purdue 45-0, and Notre Dame beat Florida State 52-3. So since in those last 7 weeks, Notre Dame is outscoring their opponents, and I know I've made this point in previous episodes, but Notre Dame outscoring their opponents now 262-117.
Okay.
And last week was their first time playing in a one-score game since losing to Northern Illinois. And Ohio State is outscoring their opponents 235-87. So in the last 7 weeks, Ohio State has yet to allow over 90 points combined. So their defense is playing fantastic, but they played Purdue, Northwestern, Indiana, Michigan, Tennessee, who they made look not like themselves, Oregon, and Texas. So those last 5 were playoff teams, and the Purdue and Northwestern, they outscored them 86-7. So that kind of helped that number as well. But yeah, Jeff had made the point that these are 2 of the best defenses in the country. These are the best 2 teams in the country at terms of points per game. So that is even more of a point out for me that the under 46 is the way to go for me on a total.
So we're in agreement on the under. Again, you got 2 top 5 defenses. Now, granted, you look at that Notre Dame Ohio State game. I know that guy on the right left of the studio likes the Buckeyes here tonight, to say the very least. But the Notre Dame Penn State game that somehow found its way over.
Yep.
Again, that was 31 fourth quarter points. So it took a lot of chaos to get it there. That was the deadest of unders until that fourth quarter. Could you get something like that again tonight? Yeah, I think you could. This is such a weird sort of game here where Ryan Day and company, of course, don't even make the Big Ten title game. The quote-unquote lunatic fringe, and I think it was a lot more than just the quote-unquote lunatic fringe, wanted Ryan Day out before the playoff even started.
Yes.
Then they just, for lack of a better phrase, kicked the crap out of Tennessee and Oregon back-to-back. Now, granted, I thought Tennessee was overrated the whole year, but I don't feel like rehashing that. Oregon, by the time the playoff wrapped around, was genuinely thought that was team 1 and team 2 in the country. And Ohio State ran them out of the Rose Bowl. And I just wonder now that Texas played them so close. And look, Texas had first and goal at the 1 yard line. First and goal at the 1 in a 1-score game with 3 minutes to go. Somehow it resulted in 7 the other way because of the strip sack fumbles. Jack Sawyer returned at 90 yards, and Ohio State was off to the races from there. I just wonder if Texas's game plan gives Notre Dame some ideas. Now, you can't find too much differently constructed defensive strategies than what Texas and Notre Dame do. They just go about it very differently. Texas has just basically said, you know what, we're going to beat you with our D-line. Notre Dame is a more balanced approach than what Texas does. And Jeremiah Smith had 1 catch for 4 yards. Yeah. Like, you know the other guys in Ohio State are good. They're probably going to get their own.
Theirs, yeah.
You know what I'm saying. Jeremiah Smith, if you can take Jeremiah Smith out of this game and make it say, all right, look, if Judkins, Henderson, Ibuka, the tight ends, Carnell Tate, whoever else beats us, Will Howard with his legs, if they beat us, we're just going to live with that. quite frankly, I think that's fine if that's the sort of way that Notre Dame goes about it. And if that's the case, I actually like the Irish plus the 9. Again, I'm already very well invested in Notre Dame futures going into this game. And I think this is a dead under. Again, that was a dead under in the Cotton Bowl, where it was 42. And quite frankly, I know everyone kind of may say you got lucky there was no overtime, but that was a dead under for regulation-wise, Ryan.
So you kind of made the point of there's flow of the season earlier of the year. And so I kind of want to do that same thing, but use the Oregon game as a benchmark. So during the regular season, Ohio State obviously played at Oregon, lost 32-31. Okay, but before they played them, they beat Iowa 35-7. Okay, so beat Iowa, beat a Power 5 program, then played Oregon, then played Nebraska, and they escaped that game against Nebraska. And then after putting their team back together in what could have been a loss to a team that they shouldn't have lost to in Nebraska, they played against Penn State, a rival team. And in that game, Penn State had a long first drive, had to settle for a field goal. Then Will Howard's first pass attempt of the game threw a pick 6. Penn State then proceeded to only score 3 points for the rest of the game, losing 20-13 to Ohio State in that game. Drew Aller threw 2 interceptions. And so now we bring it to where we're at in the playoff, and you go Tennessee, a Power 5 school that has a unit in their offense, similar to Iowa, who has a much better defense than their offense. So one unit stronger than the other, and they were able to shut that down and put up more than the other. So 35-7 against Iowa, 42-17 against Tennessee. Then had to give their all to try and beat Oregon earlier this year in Oregon. Didn't happen. Then had to let down against Nebraska. Had to give their all against Oregon in the playoff. Must-win game or else Ryan Day is gone. They win it handily. But then they go into Texas. They escape that game. They stop at the 1-yard line, the scoop and score. That 14 points is bloated. They escape that game. But now you go into a Notre Dame team that same Penn State team that had you down 10-0. Notre Dame should be live in this game. And that 9, I think, is still way too much.
As we flip over to prop-related wise, by the way, I will not be able to help myself. I probably will take some Notre Dame money line, too, just to see if I can keep piling on what has been just a fun month in this college football playoff, just betting the Irish through and through. Prop-wise here, Ryan, you and I are on a similar, or not a similar prop. We're on the same prop. You and I both like Will Howard to throw an interception tonight. Now, I also wanted to bet Riley Leonard to throw an interception, but the best number I found was -160. No, thank you. Too high. If you have the stomach for that, go for it. He probably does throw one tonight. Howard's about $1.30 is the best number, $1.25 even at some shops, mostly $1.35, $1.40. Howard has been able to play mistake-free football in this tournament because the only defense that really gave him any sort of an issue was Texas. What was the common denominator with that? Jeremiah Smith was removed.
Yes.
Now, if Notre Dame is able to, again, is Smith going to go 1 for 4 again? Probably not. But if Smith goes like 4 for 51, 4 for 40, something in that pocket, yeah, I think Will Howard's going to start trying to force, especially if it's not just, hey, we're bracketing him. You're not allowed to throw to him like Texas's defenses was. So I think we're going to get Will Howard issues here tonight. I think he'll throw one to the opposing team.
Well, to that point, Jeremiah Smith, 2 targets last week, both in the first half. You have to think that he's going to be a much more focal point in this offense. So Will Howard will be forcing throws to him, and Notre Dame should be able to win at least one of those routes and pick the ball off. So yeah, I do like Will Howard to throw an interception tonight, and I think that would ultimately be what helps Notre Dame win this game. Notre Dame, another point on their defense is Notre Dame is 5th best in the country at takeaways per game. They average 2.3 takeaways per game. Ohio State averages just 1.3, which is tied for 71st in the country, tied with 22 other teams, so somewhere between 71 and 93. But then both teams only turn the ball over 1 time per game, so it's going to be a matter of who gets the turnovers or who is able to force them more. And I think Will Howard is much more susceptible to making the mistake in the air, and especially with the issue that we saw with his hand last week. I'm not sure how much of a role that will actually play tonight, but Will Howard is a very aggressive quarterback, so we do like the interception tonight.
The other ones that I'm not sure how heavily that it makes sense to be bet, so on and so forth. Judkins has the better price of the Ohio State running backs.
Yep.
Rather lay him minus 115 and Henderson minus 125. Check your books because a lot of these numbers actually from BetMGM.
Yes.
Credit to them to actually having some good numbers out on the board here today. Would be a little bit, again, just look for the best number. See if you can get a plus number on Judkins. No problem on that. The off the board guy I'm taking is the guy who had the big play near the end of the Orange Bowl. I'm taking Jaden Greathouse.
Okay.
Here, over 22.5 receiving yards, and we can go for the bomb at plus 650 anytime touchdown, Ryan. One of these Notre Dame wide receivers has to step up tonight if they're going to have a shot to win this game. Of course, we have seen already Jordan Faison have an impact in this tournament. We saw Mitchell Evans, the tight end, have a good game in the Orange Bowl. Greathouse at 7 for 105. I know, granted, the busted coverage helped the long touchdown, but Greathouse was the favorite target of Riley Leonard in the semifinal, and you're giving me just getting to the mid-20s on the yardage, plus 650 on the anytime. I think those numbers are a little out of whack for what we just saw. I know it's a whole year thing. I get that, but I think these are pretty solid numbers on Greathouse if you want to take some shots in the dark here.
Yeah. No lean to a play, but another guy that has to show up for Notre Dame in this game is Jeremiah Love, obviously. So he, this season, 7 games versus ranked opponents. His season averages, okay? Season average attempts per game, 10.6, yards per carry, 7.1, and so then yards per game would be 74.8. In 7 games versus ranked opponents this season, he lowered his attempts per game, he raised his yards per game, and ultimately raised his yards per carry. So he averages almost 10 carries per game, so less than 10 carries per game against ranked opponents, 75.4 yards per game, and ultimately 7.7 yards per carry. And then adding to Riley Leonard, who is obviously the leader for the Notre Dame offense, but he averages over 11 carries per game for the season. And in ranked matchups, that he adds an extra carry. So up to over 12 carries per game for Riley Leonard in ranked matchups, but it's kind of the opposite of Jeremiah Love. Jeremiah Love does better in ranked matchups in terms of yard per carry. Riley Leonard has gone down in terms of yards per carry. His verse in ranked matchups is only 4.3 yards per carry. So Jeremiah Love, obviously the starting running back for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, with all that speed, is going to have to find the seam, break one in order to beat this Ohio State team, who has been the best in the country at limiting yards per game allowed, yards per play allowed, and opponent yards per rush. They are second in the country, just 2.7. And so another thing that I think it comes down to is whether or not you're able to game manage and get third down conversions. And we've seen that in this playoff, Notre Dame has been capable of doing so. Ohio State has not been capable of doing so. Third down conversion attempts, third down conversions allowed per game. Notre Dame this season allows 4.1 per game, which is 5th best in the country. Ohio State is tied for 40th in the country, worse than another team that I'm a fan of in North Carolina, who
that was not a good defense.
Couldn't stop anybody.
That was not good.
So being worse than them in a defensive category does not help. And so looking at the last 3 playoff matchups for these teams, Notre Dame stopped Indiana on 4 of 12 third downs, stopped Georgia on 2 of 12 third downs, and those teams only converted that number. So Indiana only converted 4 of 12. Georgia only converted 2 of 12. Penn State only converted 3 of 11. Offensively, Notre Dame versus Indiana converted 7 of 13. They'd struggled against Georgia, 4 of 14, and scored those 17 points in that 3-minute span that kind of won them the game. But then Penn State last week, 11 of 17 third down conversions. Looking at Ohio State versus Tennessee, they stopped Tennessee on 6. Tennessee converted 6 of 16 third downs. Oregon converted 8 of 19 third downs, and Texas converted 5 of 15 third downs. So Ohio State has been able to force them to be deeper in the sticks, but Notre Dame has shown that they are able to get the yards in order to get past the sticks on third down. And on Ohio State's offensive side of the ball. So versus Tennessee, only converted 4 of 9. Versus Oregon, only converted 4 of 11. And last week versus Texas, only 3 of 10. And Notre Dame's defense showed that they were able to stop the teams that they played in this playoff. So third downs are going to be huge in this game. And another thing, that these drives are going to be long. Another good side for the under, which also is now up to 46.5 again.
Keep it coming. Keep going. Let's go. Get as high as humanly possible here. 47 would be awesome, actually, because then you get to push at 27-20, which feels like the outer limits of the scoring here tonight. And you know what? If it goes over, so be it. And whatever. It's this should be, at least to me, this is in a year where for college football, this has been the most this has been, if not the most enjoyable college football year that I can remember. It's near the top if it's not up there. 2007 obviously has a special place in everyone's heart with just the carnage that happened on a weekly basis. It was good to not have a dominant team this year. It was good that the only undefeated team had flaws. Now, I'm not saying it's good for you, Ryan, because you had Oregon futures, but it wasn't the end of the world that the only undefeated team didn't make it all the way through, that there wasn't a true, like, dominant Saban Alabama team that was just so, or even Georgia 2 years ago, where, look, Ohio State almost knocked them out, and then the national title game was one of the biggest farces in college football history. But this has been, from a betting perspective, such a fun year because of just being able to be a little bit wider in the range, be able to find out which of these teams was really actually that good. And in the end, you have the national title game where you have a two-loss team who, in the old circumstance, would have had no chance of playing for the title
at all,
and is a 9-point favorite in the title game.
Yeah.
And you have Notre Dame, who most years that Northern Illinois loss would have been eliminating. Now, I know people will say, oh, the Final Four would have been the 2 SEC teams and the 2 Big Ten teams if it was the old format. You have no idea what it would have been. Right. Because the committee might have done it a little bit differently, knowing there was only 4 spots as opposed to 12. They didn't want to penalize Penn State and Texas for losing in conference title games this year. Fine. In the old format, I think Notre Dame might have gotten in still at 11-1. But both of these teams deserve to be in the playoff. Both of these teams have played their way to the title game. And regardless of what happens, this is a truly deserving champion coming out of here with either Ohio State's first championship since the first year of the college football playoff. I guess they like the new with the Buckeyes. So when it's 14 in 3 years, look at the Buckeyes again. And for Notre Dame, I mean, we're going back to Lou Holtz basically at this point.
Yeah.
So unbelievable game. We both like the under. We both like Notre Dame plus the points as well. We'll see how it all plays out here tonight.
We did have a poll in the chat letting us know which your choice of bet, whether it was spread, money line, total, or a prop bet, to let us know. But Sean Higgs thinks Ohio State is going to blow out Notre Dame tonight. Craig Parles thinks it's a 2.0 of the 2003 Fiesta Bowl.
So for people who don't remember that, I was
3 years old.
That's part of the reason I'm going to help you out here.
Thank you.
This was the reversal of that, where, of course, Ohio State with Chicago Bear legend Greg Krenzel at quarterback, by the way, stunned one of the most talented teams ever, the Hurricanes of Miami, who were going for back-to-back. There was a very questionable penalty that extended that game. Buckeyes ended up winning that title. So that's what that reference is, that it's like, all right, even though Ohio State is nowhere near the level of those early 2000s Miami teams, kind of like that little, I don't want to say David versus Goliath, but a behemoth going down in an upset. And then Roger Long, look at Roger Long.
Let us know.
Roger Long has more action than you and I do here tonight.
Yeah, played Ohio State -2.5, under 51.5. So
okay, so a little same game teaser.
Plus
okay,
Henderson anytime touchdown.
Okay,
and then on the NFL side, played Kansas City +3.5, under 54.5, and Josh Allen anytime touchdown. And then Roger, it's the Commanders now, but Commanders +10.5 and under 54.5 in that one too.
Roger going with teasing through zero, which is always an interesting idea to say the very least.
We'll hear about that from Vinny.
Oh, no, I'm not even going to bother. We were already good on that front. All right. Well, Ryan, I just want to bring this up before we bring Vinny in, because this is the last of our afternoon shows for Football Frenzy on Mondays. Mm-hmm. We will still, of course, have Friday's edition. Myself, Vinny, Chris, Jimmy. we thank Jimmy for stepping in for Chris who was inactive on Friday. But we still have 3 more weeks of Football Frenzy on Fridays. Of course, we'll be here at 3 o'clock, all those leading into the conference title games. By 3 o'clock, the week between the conference championship games and the Super Bowl, that big giant prop booklet will just about be finished if it isn't already next Friday. And then, of course, the day before the big game in New Orleans will be here. But I want to get your thoughts on the Final Four in the NFL before Vinny comes in here, because this is obviously, we get one matchup we're always hopeful for going into this postseason, Kansas City versus either Buffalo or Baltimore with a chance to slay the Dragon. And then we have Philadelphia, who was an expected party here against, I think this is the most unexpected conference finalist we've seen in a very long, I don't know about very long, because the Niners, the year they lost to the Rams in the conference final, they were not expected to be there. The Packers were. But been almost 4 full years since we've had as unexpected of a Final Four team in the NFL as this Washington team. What are your thoughts here? Again, Eagles just shy of 6, and the Chiefs 2-point favorites against Buffalo.
So I have a piece of paper in that coat cupboard that Frank and I did back in May, our Super Bowl predictions. I had Eagles over Ravens. So Sunday was unfortunate for that
your
prediction
bird
for me.
battle is gone.
Yeah, the 2 running back additions are what sold me there. But when we did those, Sean, another guy here in the studio, told us his prediction. He loved the Washington Commanders coming into this year. And when he said that, I legit laughed at him. I said, there is no chance this rookie quarterback does this. And here they are. They have done everything that they needed to. Great head coach, fantastic coordinators, been efficient, no turnovers. And now you have a divisional game to win your conference on the road. Just the complete revamp that Washington did from ownership down. I wish the Bears would follow suit, and it would be incredible. But I think the Commanders are live in this game with the health of Jalen Hurts. We saw 2 weeks in the regular season when Jalen Hurts left that game, the Eagles fell flat. Kenny Pickett was field goals, turnovers, punts. They cannot beat the Commanders in that fashion. Vic Fangio's defense is fantastic, but they can't beat the Commanders in that fashion when the Commanders are as efficient as they are with the football. And then, so I 100% think the Commanders are live in this game to go into Philly and win this game. Credit to Sean for calling this months ago.
Hope he betted.
But now to go to the AFC side, yes, I do wish Baltimore was here, but it is so hard to bet against Kansas City, especially in the fashion that they beat Houston. They got dominated in the stat sheet by Houston. And the 2 calls that extended the Chiefs' drives, resulting in 10 points, I just can't bring myself to think I can defeat the Chiefs in these scenarios. So I tend to think it is going to be Chiefs Commanders in the Super Bowl. So
boy, for a lot of people, there'll be quote unquote good versus evil on that, which I'm not one who buys into that, but whatever. I am, like I said to Chris earlier, that NFC title game is legitimately going to come down to the last second of betting opportunities for me.
Jalen Hurts is the key.
Like, if Hurts is healthy, I just have a hard time seeing Washington being able to pull it off.
Yeah.
Because I don't think they'll get enough stops. Yeah. That's my big... Now, granted, Washington's punted 1 time this whole postseason, but they might have to legitimately score every single time they have the ball, which they've been doing for the most part this postseason. Kansas City, Buffalo, I'll just get this out of the way quickly. If the market comes in on Buffalo and this thing ends up being Kansas City 1 is automatic for me. If the Bills finally go in there and beat them, so be it. I will not believe it until that clock hits 000, or the game is won in overtime with how much clock time is on the clock in that by Buffalo.
With the rule, too, to allow both teams to get the ball.
There is no faith at all from me, in Buffalo going into Arrowhead and beating Kansas City in a big game. Hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
Don't expect it to happen this go around.
Yeah.
All I'll say is, Both of the NFC teams are very live in the Super Bowl against Kansas City. Now, Chris and company put up KC -1 on a look ahead and KC -1 against Philly. -5 against Washington.
Okay.
I'd be very curious to see how a Washington-Kansas City number gets reopened after title games. If Kansas City beats Buffalo by a hair, which is very much possible, and the Eagles romp against Washington, don't be surprised if that favorite is flipped.
Yeah.
So
recency. Yeah.
Be very. You might want to hop in on some of these early. I also think. If Philly wins a
100%.
coin flip game and Buffalo smacks KC, Buffalo's going to be a favorite.
Chris even made the point. Even if you hop in early and it's not the matchup that you bet on, you're getting your money back. Yeah. So there's no reason to not hop in early to get the best value because these numbers are going to shift in the book's favor once we get to the official matchup.
I am, again, super excited for all these games. Really intrigued just to see how a rookie quarterback, again, no rookie quarterback has ever, won the Super Bowl, has ever played in the Super Bowl. Jaden Daniels looking to make some history with, again, a team that is at as many playoff wins this year as they did during the entire Daniel Snyder era. Been quite a while. By the way, also congratulations to the Dallas Cowboys for being the least recent NFC Championship game appearer.
Yep.
Right
Every
now,
other team
in the NFC has made
the
conference title game since the Cowboys last made it in 1996. So, good work. Congratulations to Jerry Jones and company on that accomplishment.
A lot of Buckeye fans are really offended by that too.
Oh, the Lakers didn't play today.
Lakers, Yankees.
I think they played yesterday and lost. We bring Vinny Magliulo in right now.
Gentlemen. Ryan's all giddy. He's got a new coach.
Yes.
Are you
Very
happy
excited
about
it too.
Okay.
I'm so happy.
I forgot that. I do want to ask you, are you surprised the Bears actually landed on the right guy?
Yes. I am shocked. I thought as soon as Tom Telesco was fired, I thought the Raider job is still the better job. I get the division. You have to go into Andy Reid, John Harbaugh, Sean Payton. But you get to pick your quarterback, you get to pick your GM, you get $100+ million of cap space, and off the field, you don't have an income tax. Mm-hmm. So anyway, the Raider job I think is fantastic, let alone. But yes, the Bears.
I'll take it.
The Bears.
Yeah, I'm in, Vinny. Can't do much worse than the last guy.
I know there was some hate about the Lions last game and how they played, but the scheme was there. It just wasn't executed to the Lions' best of their abilities. And so Ben Johnson, I think, is an offensive genius, and people think, how is this going to be different than Matt Nagy or Matt Eberflus? Matt Eberflus was a defensive coordinator, great coordinator, not a head coach. Kind of goofy. Matt Nagy wasn't even the play caller when we hired him from Kansas City. It was still Eric Bieniemy, so that hire was out of the question. You have a play caller of the best offense in the league who's been a play caller for 3 years now. He knows what he's doing with an offense. And now Caleb doesn't have to go through turnover. It's beautiful.
I can't believe I'm going to say what I'm going to say. I'm actually about to defend Matt Nagy. Putting Nagy and Eberflus in the same sentence, I don't think is fair to Nagy.
I agree.
Because Nagy made the playoffs twice with Trubisky.
During Eberflus's tenure, I was wishing we still had Nagy.
Yeah.
A lot of people are coming down hard on Goff. Let's remember this too. It's like other teams practice too.
Yeah.
You watch these games and things like that. And again, he didn't have his best day, but you have to attribute that to the Redskins doing just a tremendous job. I mean, let's face it.
So
look, when you look at takeaways have been the difference, especially this last weekend, right? And the teams that lost the takeaway battle lost the games. So, it's going to be. It was a great weekend. Again tonight with 10 games going to this Ohio State Notre Dame game. Oh, and by the way, this game also jumpstarts
now it's to
next week's conference championship.
Awesome.
What a country!
Awesome.
So Vinny, I just want to bring up for tonight again. Obviously, different operations for different books. One of the more wild things I can remember, like this close to a big game like this. Circa went to 10 35 minutes ago. Mm-hmm. They're back to 8 now. So they were just flooded completely across the board on Notre Dame action all the way back to 8. You guys are right now market high on this game, still at 9.
Yeah.
Again, money line right now. our friends over at the Westgate also at plus 340 as well. So peak of the market on plus 340 on Notre Dame. And the total right now, if
46
we're looking,
and a half.
46 and a half,
Mm-hmm.
that is actually technically now market high because Westgate the hook disappeared from Westgate as I was talking.
Well, that's why you as bettors, you have to shop, and you have those choices. So, explaining, I can't speak to what other books have done and moved and how they've come back. They're running their operation accordingly, and, running things here accordingly. And but I know this. Fair limits, fair straddles. I mean, when you see minus 4.25 and you're getting plus 340, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good price both ways. So business is still good. It's been very steady all day ever since last night, and I think it's going to be that way right up until game time. By the way, this game all got bumped again. It's up to 4:45. I might bet the over 4:45.
I think right. I think 4:45 and 22 seconds. I think is the perfect number on this venue.
You want 22 seconds?
I think
I'm still going over, Jeff.
I'm not saying I
Starting
disagree.
time means nothing. I told you this the other day. There hasn't been a game in this postseason in college or pros that has started at post time. Trust me. Which I'm not complaining about because that gives us more time.
Did the seventh at Goldstream go on time yesterday, Vinny?
Seventh? No. Don't even. The only time, let me tell you something. Post times are simply that, but at least you know that in horse racing, right? It's things happen at the track. Sometimes they have to unload the gate or whatever the case may be. Sometimes they get shorter. You go look at Saratoga. Sometimes the post between races get shortened so they can get the card in before the afternoon and evening thunderstorms get there. You remember those days, Jeff?
Oh yeah.
You've been to Saratoga.
I have.
I've
been to Saratoga. I've been to them all.
Yeah.
Belmont, Aqueduct, even though the days are numbered at Aqueduct.
Yes.
That was still one of the weirder tracks ever, but whatever. Regardless, there was a lot of snow at Aqueduct yesterday.
Oh God.
But Vinny, these two conference championship games, we talked about it at length with Chris. But we talked about the Jalen Hurts factor in the NFC title game, which I think is the whole ball of wax here. If Jalen Hurts, again, we expect Jalen Hurts to play, just a matter of how healthy Jalen Hurts is. Of course, Eagles did not cover yesterday against the Rams, but Chrissy said took the early bet on Washington, the big early bet on Washington, moved the number, and then there's been a flood of Eagles since.
Yeah, well, I think I think that was a reaction because don't forget. The number went up last night right after the game. We knew that Hurts' knee wasn't the same after he went down on that play. I mean, look, he scored the first touchdown. What was it, a 70-yard run, 65-yard touchdown run, right? Yeah. So I think that was a reaction to that at that time. And then, oh wait, he's okay. His knee, they're not making it seem like that the knee is injured. So they came back in on the Eagles. But let's remember this. You want to look at other factors too, right? The Eagles lost a couple of corners. Mitchell, you have to check on the status of Mitchell in particular, right? Because you saw it on that last drive, the Rams' last drive, where one of the corners, Mitchell was out and his backup went out. They were down to a rookie safety in a corner in that on that drive. Credit the Eagles' defensive line there. So look for as much information as possible in terms of the health of these teams. I would say that the team that's probably the healthiest coming out of this weekend is probably Kansas City, then the Bills, then probably the Commanders. Even though Washington was without. They had they incurred some injuries.
Commander's biggest loss, they lost Sam Cosmi, offensive lineman, midstream.
But they also had some defensive injuries, going into the game too. So, look, the depth of these teams is going to be critical. And but health, look for the health. Go to either team websites or team beat writers, right? And you have plenty of time to do that.
Yeah.
Vinny, just want to ask you the props for tonight's game.
Yeah, pretty good sheet, right?
You have a full sheet. You have the the first player to score the touchdown in the game. You have the margin of victory. You have a bunch of player props in there.
Alternate point spread props, which are fun.
Always fun on that.
Right.
Where is
Which one were you looking at?
Oh, we might be going all in on Great House here tonight as we.
Are you sticking with your?
No reason for me to change. I'm
Anything
good.
in game? Maybe if you see how the game's playing out.
I took 9 earlier.
Okay.
So we're in on that.
Okay.
Whatever. We'll see how it plays out. And we're gonna see if we somehow see 47. I doubt we will, but if we do, under 47 is I think an auto, because that gives us the push at 27-20, which. Not a great mathematician, Vinny, but I know 27-20 is 47.
46.5 right now with, probably about an hour to go. But no, you've got, again, if you see the 47, I wouldn't wait too long to go under.
All right, Ryan, final thoughts before we get out of here today?
Just looking at if Notre Dame is going to compete in this game, I do like the over for Jeremiah Love, that 543, over 43.5 rushing yards. His big playability is what Notre Dame is going to need in this game. And then obviously the turnover battle is what is also going to be necessary. But I've also prefaced a couple shows ago that I did grow up a Notre Dame fan, and I got used to them embarrassing me on national stages. So I am fully prepared to get blown out tonight. But I do think it will be a one-score game. So I do think the 9 is too much, and I do like the under.
My goodness, Ryan, you sound like a Bears fan.
Yeah.
Oh, 8.5 now? Okay, there we go. So that 9 no longer allowed.
8.5.
Yeah. So
took it.
Vinny, this has been a nice toggler all week, actually, but it's toggling on some bizarre non-key numbers here tonight. So.
Yeah, a little more of a factor, I'd say, right, in the college game than you would see in the pros. Although the pros now with the 2-point conversion, you're seeing some interesting games fall the way they do. And then when safeties get involved, I said that already, didn't I, after the other day?
Well, that safety yesterday really almost caused complete havoc in that Rams-Eagles game.
Pair of safeties impacting things in the last couple of days.
The Texans won. I know some don't even want to even acknowledge that existed, but regardless.
The flags plus the safety, yeah.
I will say this. I'm just going to stick to my guns I've had all postseason long. Notre Dame pulls this thing out right. Low-scoring game, 17-14. So I don't even need the 47 based off that. Yeah. But I'm going to stick to what I've said all tournament. That I picked Notre Dame pre-tournament. No reason to back down now. Give me the Irish here tonight. Pull the upset. Win their first title in almost 30 years. And Marcus Freeman gets himself a nice little lifetime contract after that. Never has to leave South Bend if he doesn't want to. Right. Now that Bears vacancy is all
officially
taken
closed.
For Ben Johnson.
Yes.
Yeah. There you go.
There it is. And again, that's you've also done well in their playoff games. So your position tonight on futures depends on what you've got invested and how you've done between your future play and to this point.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm content. If they lose tonight, so be it. But I think this will be a tight game, one way or another. If Ohio State runs them out of the building, credit to the Buckeyes. Yep. Then guess what? They were clearly the best team in college football, even with those 2 losses, if they run Notre Dame off the field in Atlanta tonight. Vinny, thank you. We'll see you on Friday.
Gentlemen.
Ryan, thank you as always. Jerry and Drew Dog, thank you.
Down to 8. Moving towards the Irish.
There you go. More money on Notre Dame here, Vinny.
It's a pretty big decision going into that. So we definitely needed some Notre Dame money, and here it comes.
There we go. I'm Jeff Parles. Good luck on your plays tonight. We're back on this program, Football Frenzy, on Friday. Vinny, Chris, Jimmy, and I, an hour, 3 o'clock. If you want Sports by the Book in general, we're here all week, 9 a.m. the next 4 days until we're 8:30 on Saturday morning and at 9 a.m. again on Sunday. Kenny and Alex are here the next few days. I'm back on Thursday with Alex. Have a lot of fun coming your way this week on Sports by the Book. See you next time. Good luck, everybody.